Hi, InfoNet users. My name is Jennifer Heiselman. I am the InfoNet manager here at the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, and welcome to the InfoNet 3.0 training on using client needs and updates features, which are newly posted at the time of this recording. It was about 1 month ago on the sexual assault interface. And this was part of the InfoNet Stepping Forward project. Now we're calling InfoNet 3.0. It had two major objectives. The first was to improve InfoNet's overall capacity to collect and report data on more tangible, meaningful service outcomes among the clients that you serve. And this is the objective that this training focuses on. The new features I'm going to be demonstrating for you shortly are to help further our progress toward this particular objective. And InfoNet Stepping Forward also added a new reporting tool specifically for the Federal Office for Victims of Crime reporting tool called the Performance Measurement Tool, or PMT. And that is covered in a different recorded training. So if you are interested in that, please go to the InfoNet website and you will see a recording there. Now, this project consisted of two particular upgrades in order to improve InfoNet's capacity to demonstrate more meaningful outcomes. The first is you now all have the ability to update some of your clients' data fields that may change over time while that client is engaged in your services. So if you have ever been to a InfoNet training in the past, you've always been told complete those intake data fields as they are true at or around the client's point of intake or when they first come to your program for services. That is still true. You should still do that. But now you have the ability to update your client's information over time while also preserving what that data looked like at the point of intake. And then the second new feature is there is a new client needs section where you have the ability to actually add multiple client needs assessments also over time while your clients are engaged in your services. And this, we hope, will allow you to see what portion of client needs have been addressed while engaged in services and give you a better sense of where more resources for survivors may be needed, whether in your organization itself or in the community that you serve. Okay, so the new features I'll be demonstrating today, I also want to point out that the terms you will see were all, and the design of this were informed by an InfoNet Stepping Forward advisory group. Some of you watching this may have served on that group. Thank you for your feedback and all the time you spent with me helping to come up with the design and the terms for these new features. And this includes all the new client need categories, their definitions, and also selecting which client intake fields in InfoNet would be updatable over time. I also overall want to point out that these new features are not mandated by ICASA or DHS or any funder that I'm aware of. In fact, DHS and ICASA don't even have access to these new areas where you're able to enter data. There are simply new tools to inform your own program or organizational decision making, strategic planning, and demonstrating more meaningful outcomes among the clients you have. However, if you do have a funder that does require you to establish some sort of service outcome metric, this may help you meet that requirement in an easier way. And finally, at the time of this recording, know that reports to pull these data out of these new features are not available yet. But you will be able to see all the new data when you view each client's record, and reports for displaying data for multiple clients, like standard reports or management reports. We are seeking volunteers to serve on an advisory group to help decide what types of information those reports should display and kind of what metrics would be most helpful to you all. And so if you're interested in volunteering to serve on that group, please reach out to me. Um, It would involve your participation in between 2 to 4 meetings, about an hour in length, and then after we create the new reports in a testing form, we would ask you if you could look at those reports in their draft form and test to make sure they're looking as intended. So with that, let's get into the updated features. In InfoNet, I'm going to share my screen. And I am already logged in to the sexual assault InfoNet interface. So I am going to start out by adding a new client. This will be a primary victim. So I'm going to establish a client ID for this person. And I am going to make this client's first contact date a little earlier in time because I want to give myself some room to add updated information over time. So I'm going to say this client came to our program on November 1st. And I'm going to enter the rest of these fields very minimally for the time being. I will finish the demographics section. I'm going to say she's employed part-time. I'm going to say she is a current college student, so some college, single, not pregnant, and I'm going to check this box because this client happens to be a college university student. And again, these are all mock data. This is a dummy sexual assault center for training purposes only. None of the data you see here are real. Okay, I'm going to add only a primary presenting issue for her. I'm going to leave this all blank. Okay. I'm going to say she's employed part-time, so I'll say employment is her primary source of income. Referred by, we'll say her school. No, I'm not going to indicate any needs. I'm going to skip over this client's residence information because it doesn't have to do with showing you the new features. Now here is the new client needs section. But before we get into that, because that's going to be a little bit lengthy, I do want to show you this other section quickly first. And it is the last section. It is new. It's called Program Enrollment. I would ignore this section for now. We had to post it because we think you all will benefit from it in the future. And this will simply be a way for you to track clients that are in your own internal programs. We had to post this now because some providers have a funding from HUD, or Housing and Urban Development, called Rapid Rehousing, and they needed a way to identify clients that are enrolled in this program. So if you click program type, you'll see only 2 options there: Rapid Rehousing and court advocacy, because we know many of you do have internal court advocacy programs. If you do have clients enrolled in these sort of internal programs, you are welcome to use it. You just indicate which program they're enrolled in, when they became enrolled, and then when they leave. And you can just save that information. But know that you can completely skip over this section for the time being. By FY25, this will actually be a locally controlled list where you can add your own internal programs here and use it to keep track of clients in those particular groupings. Okay, so with that, I will go back up to the beginning of our client needs section. And all the needs are broken down into broader categories. We have safety and security, housing, other fundamental needs, the various types of advocacy, counseling, and then life skills is the last broader section. So again, these categories were informed by that advisory group I mentioned earlier. And then to look at a formal definition for all of these terms, you just want to hover your mouse over the I, the little information circle here, and you will see the definition of each of these needs. I also want to mention that these needs, not all of them necessarily align or mirror your service categories. Some do, um, but they're a little bit different in services. It's simply a description of a particular need. So the idea here is this is a tool for you to identify any need your client has at any particular point in time. In this case, we're doing the needs at the point of intake. So if your client has such a need and you've identified this together, you can check that category. And even if you don't have services to necessarily address this need, it's still meant to get a comprehensive view of their needs and then look at how well those needs can be addressed, not just through your own services, but through your community partners as well. Okay, so for this sample client we are working with, I am going to check just 5 needs. We're going to keep it simple for training purposes. So I'm going to check crisis intervention. I suspect that's a common need when you encounter your clients for the first time. I'm also going to check safety planning. Um, I will do law enforcement. I'm going to pretend this person is considering whether or not to report the incident she experienced to police. So I'm talking about options and what could possibly happen, whichever decision she makes. I am going to do protective orders because she may be interested in that. And then finally, I'll do in the medical area, I'll do emergency because perhaps I had received a call from a local hospital. This client was in the emergency room for sexual assault injuries, and I went there to meet with the client and provide medical advocacy. So I'm going to leave it at these 5 needs, and then I'm going to save. So I have completed my intake and I have saved my client. Okay, so again, our first contact date is November 1st. So during the month of November, I'm going to be providing this client with some services. So those will be entered at later points in time. I'm going to pretend those services have already been entered into InfoNet, and we're going to jump to December 1st. Now we're going to pretend it's a month later. I've got some services entered for this person, and now we are going to add an updated record for December 1st. So to do that, I'm going to click on Client Updates. And notice it has the date 11/1/2023 here. That's because this is the very first record of this client's information, which also happens to be their intake. So I have 1 row of information here. Again, this is their intake. I'm going to add a new client update by clicking this button right here, New Client Update. And I am going to make my updated record for December 1st. And actually, before we do that, there is a data validation here. It needs to be at least 2 weeks after intake or the last update record you created. So if I tried to enter here something like 11/10/23 and I try to save, it is going to let me know that the valid date must be at least 14 days later or 2 weeks. So I'm going to go back to my December 1st date, and nothing changed about this client situation at this point in time, 30 days later. So I'm going to leave the demographic section, income, I'm going to leave all that the same as it was in intake, which is what you should see here. But I'm going to go down to the client needs section. And remember, I had checked 5 client needs for this person at their intake record November 1st. I checked crisis intervention, safety planning, law enforcement, protective orders, and then medical emergency. So you can see this first column here simply displays whether this was a need for your client at the last assessment. So that's why we have 5 yeses and the rest say no, because they weren't indicated as needs on November 1st. Now, this is another column called conflict. I will demonstrate and explain this a little bit later. The remaining columns we have here are internal, external, external agency, and then continuing and new need. Internal simply means in the last 30 days or since the last assessment, I can indicate whether any of these 5 needs that were previously checked were addressed through internal services from my sexual assault program. If any need was addressed through an external resource, that would be a community partner or some other resource in your service area that your client has access to. Now, if you check the external box, you can also check this drop-down menu and actually select the specific organization that did help your client address this particular need. So if this is a law enforcement need, and I'm going to say this need was met externally, I would likely select a law enforcement type agency here. And this drop-down menu I am opening up is connected to your agency lookup list. So this list is going to look different for each one of you depending on what agencies you've included in here. And then continuing a new need, you can look at the label for this column as it's either a continuing or perhaps a new need for your client. Because just because a need is addressed, whether it's with services or from the help of a partner organization, it doesn't mean that need was fully addressed or completely met. So even though needs are addressed, this may still be a continuing need for your client. And if that's the case, you would check that box. Okay, so let's go back up to the first need I indicated, which was crisis intervention. So I am going to say that crisis intervention, that need has been addressed internally with services. I'm also going to do the same for safety planning. I'm going to say we addressed it internally with services, but this client still has concerns about her safety. So I'm also going to check this as a continuing need. And then law enforcement, I'm going to say that was met externally as well as through internal service. I'll say as a service provider, I was able to provide this client with an overview of some options about reporting to law enforcement. We can also say that maybe you're lucky enough to have a police department with a victim advocate, and this client also received help from that police-based victim advocate. So I have external here checked along with the specific agency that helped my client. I'm going to leave this unchecked as a continuing need. We're going to say that that need is addressed, at least for now. Protective orders, I'm going to say we have addressed that internally with services, and it's also a continuing need. Maybe we were able to get an emergency stalking order, but we need to go back to court, so it is a continuing need. And then finally, medical emergency, that was addressed internally with services, and I'm going to say that this is also no longer a need for this particular client. Any need that was not checked during the last assessment, you'll see these fields are grayed out. So I did not indicate on November 1st that this client had a need for security, which would mean helping change locks or install security cameras, things like that. So because it wasn't indicated as a need last time, there's no point in checking any one of these 3 columns because this is really referring to what previous needs and how have they been addressed since the last needs assessment. Now, this client could have newly emerging needs since the last time we've done this assessment. So I am going to pretend that this particular client has some new needs. We will say emotional support needs, So even though that was not indicated as a need on November 1st, I'm going to check that it's a new need for December 1st. Then I am also going to select Title IX. This client is a current college university student and is having some potential issues reporting the incident with her school. So I'm going to check this is a new need for Title IX. And then finally, I'm going to check two more new needs. We'll go with education employment goals, kind of rethinking her education since all this has happened, and then some coping self-care. She expressed interest in that. So I've indicated how I have or have not addressed the needs that were indicated on November 1st. I've also added some new needs. And I'm going to save my client needs assessment. Okay, so I have saved that record. You notice under the client updates heading here, I have a new need or a new update record of December 1st. And if I scroll down, it has all the data checked as I saved it. And if I scroll up to the top of the client needs section overall, it has a red check mark. That means that there was a change in this data section since the last update record, which was on November 1st. Okay, so one question that came up is, let's say I am talking with this client about reporting what happened to her to the university she goes to. So the topic of Title IX came up. And so I have indicated this as a need on December 1st. During that same conversation on December 1st, let's say I also informed my client, hey, you know, we have a really good relationship with a community partner that offers pro bono legal services, particularly for clients with Title IX issues that need to be addressed. So I am going to make a referral. Maybe I'll even call that organization on behalf of my client and help her make an appointment. So I've been asked, well, how do I indicate that here in the client needs section? And the answer to that is for this December 1st record, you don't need to do anything more than what we've already done here. I've checked Title IX as a new need for this particular person. Next time I do a needs assessment with this person, maybe that's a month from now. At that point, if she has gone to this other organization, had an appointment, and the need was addressed, at that point is when I will document that this need was addressed through an external referral and the name of that organization. So you don't need to indicate anything here now, although you may want to document something in your client's personal case notes that um, referred this survivor to a pro bono legal organization you partner with, and later you might enter a service like civil justice advocacy. I think that would be especially if you made the call to that other organization and got and helped your client make an appointment. Okay, so we have saved this record and now we are going to fast forward again. This was our December 1st update, and I'm going to click this client updates heading again, and you'll see because I just added a new update with new client needs for December 1st, I have a new line of information displaying here showing that update. The black check marks mean that there are data in that section. It's not empty. And it's automatically going to place the black check marks here because we completed all this information at intake, and InfoNet's going to assume that there were no changes in these pieces of information because I didn't change anything here for this 12/1 update. The only thing I updated were this person's needs. So that's why we see a red check mark in the client needs column. Okay, so we are going to add another update record. I'm going to click the new client update button again. And this time, remember, it has to be at least 2 weeks. So for this next update, I'm going to make it for December 15th, 2023. That's a little more than 2 weeks after the last update I made. And if I do my needs assessments monthly, I don't know how often you may choose to do those. That's up to you, but I am adding this update record for December 15th, not for a new needs assessment, but only because something about her situation has changed. And I'm going to say that it was her employment. This particular survivor I'm working with, they decided to really lighten up their college load for the next semester, given everything that happened. They're still a student, so I'm going to leave this checked, but they decided to increase their work hours. So I am going to change this client's employment from part-time to full-time. Okay, I'm not going to make any other changes. Income source is the same. Still no language or disability needs. I'm going to leave the needs assessment alone because I'm going to plan to do that later. And I'm going to save my update with just this one change. And now I can see there is a red check mark over the demographics section that indicates that I know something was changed in this section right here compared to the next most recent update record, which was December 1st. I'm going to go back to my client summary table, and I have now a new row of information from my recent update, which was December 15th. I did make a change in one of the demographic fields for this client. That's why I see a red check mark here. I did not make any updates to their client needs. So this is helpful for me to know. By looking at this, I know on December 15th, I did not do a needs assessment. So my most recent needs assessment was actually on December 1st. Okay, I'm going to add one final update for this demonstration. So I'm going to click this button again. And now I am adding an update for January 2nd, 2024. And it is time for this client's monthly needs assessment. So that is all I am going to update about this client's situation. So I'm going to scroll down to the client needs. And this previous need column is displaying yeses for all the needs I checked at her last needs assessment, which was December 1st. It's now January 2nd. So I'm going to indicate let's see, we'll say safety planning was met internally with services, and that's no longer a need, or at least at this time. Protective orders, we'll say that was met internally with services, and maybe I was able to help this survivor get a long-term order, so that is not a need at this time either. Now, remember the question I'd asked before. Here we have Title IX. This was indicated as a need 1 month ago. We're going to pretend this client did go to our great pro bono partner and got wonderful services. We're able to open up a case. So I'm going to check that this need was addressed internally with services, externally through that great organization. I'm going to indicate I'm going to enter the actual name of that organization. Just going to pick anything for now. And this is probably going to be a longer term need. So I'm going to check that this is a continuing need for this person. Education and employment goals, I'm going to say that was met internally with services, and ultimately this survivor decided to lower their education load and up their employment, so that need has been addressed for now. We're also going to say that while coping self-care was a need indicated last time, we weren't able to provide any services. Maybe the survivor was busy. Maybe it just didn't get done for whatever reason. So even though this was indicated as a need 1 month ago, I'm going to leave these boxes unchecked because we just didn't get around to addressing that need. but I am going to indicate that this is a continuing need the client is interested in getting some help with. So with that, I have 1, 2, I'm down to just 2 needs. Oh, and then I'm also going to indicate a new need of sexual violence related therapy. This client expressed interest in. And I forgot about emotional support. I'm going to say we met that internally with services, and then that is also a continuing need. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 needs, I think, for this newest record, January 2nd. Okay, so I'm going to save. And now I have a 4th update. And when I go to my summary table, I can see that on January 2nd, all I updated was this client's needs. Okay, so that concludes the demonstration. I'm going to go over a couple questions. So let's say there is a client that's been engaged in your services for 6 months and you've never entered any needs assessment data for this person. And you say, hey, you know what? This is something I think I would like to do for this survivor. Let me find an example of a client that meets that. You could certainly do that. I'm going to search for an older client here. We'll go back to 22. And see, I don't have many clients. Okay, so let's take this 1202V client. Had a first contact date of a little over a year ago. If I view this client and I scroll down to their needs, nothing is checked. Also notice that all these are grayed out. I can't check these. So, and they were never collected, but it's now almost a year later. Let's say this client's still getting services and I want to indicate some needs for this client. I can go ahead to client updates. I am going to click new client update, and notice here the client needs does not have a black check mark. So I know this client has never had a needs assessment. I'm going to click a new client update. I'm going to make it for today, which happens to be January 31st. And I'm going to scroll down and I can ignore these first columns because this is the first needs assessment I'm doing for this person. So all I would do is go through the list of needs and simply check this box, continuing or new need, if this person has any of these needs. I'm just going to check 2 needs to keep it short. And I'm going to save that information. And now I have my client's first needs assessment 1 year after this person first came to my program for services. Okay, so let's go back to another example, or not go back. Another example might be, let's say, when you entered this client's intake information, you skipped over the client needs section because you just didn't have that information. Let's say a few days later, you receive that information, and it truly does reflect what this client's needs were around the point of intake. You saw that when I view this client's needs at intake, it's grayed out. Well, the reason these are grayed out is because whenever you have the ability to capture data at multiple time points, it also increases potential for conflicting data. And if we left these clickable, it would probably increase the likelihood that somebody would unintentionally add data that didn't make sense or jive with later records in InfoNet. But if you are sure that you want to update this client's intake with needs that were present around that same point in time, what you can do is, I'm viewing this client's intake record. I am going to click the client updates button, and I'm going to go here, edit intake. I'm going to click this button. Now, if I scroll down to client needs, see how I can click these now? I can just go through and add whatever needs this client had at the point of intake. And then I can save that information. And I now have two records here. My intake needs an intake and then needs almost a year later, or January 31st. Now I'm going to look at, okay, so what I'm going to demonstrate for you now is that conflict column. So I'm going to go back to the client we originally entered, which was this person, and I'm going to review their client needs on January 2nd. Let me just take a look and remind myself what needs this person had there. Okay, so on January 2nd, let's go with this one, safety planning. Notice that this was a need for this person at the next earliest needs assessment, which in our case was December 1st. And I indicated that we address that need internally with services. So now let's go to our December 1st update. And I'm going to click Edit to go to that particular update record. I'm going to scroll down to Client Needs and see the safety planning here. Back on December 1st, I indicated this as a new need for this client. I'm going to uncheck it. And then I'm going to save it. I do have a warning message here. It says potential conflict. The edit you are trying to save could conflict with later records. Are you sure you want to do this? So I'm going to say yes. And it still allows me to save the data as I edited it. But now if I go to the next later update, we were just looking at December 1st. I'm sorry, the next later needs assessment update, I should say, which was January 2nd. If I click the edit button to view those needs and I scroll down, see how I now see a conflict red flag in this column? That's because I had indicated this as a need that we had addressed internally with services. This used to say yes, but now I've unchecked it in the December 1st record. So now I have a conflict. It's saying I addressed a need that didn't exist at the last assessment. So what we do is we don't touch your data here because you all know what's going on with your particular client more than we would, right? So we're not going to change any of your data, but we just present an indicator so that you know, hey, there's a conflict here. And then you decide on your own where is the mistake and what needs to be corrected. And if you are confused about if you're seeing this red flag in the conflict column and you're not understanding why and unsure how to correct it, please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll help you figure out what your options are. So that concludes this demonstration and this training. A few remarks I want to close out with is this is a very new section. It was only rolled out about a month ago. It's very complex. So we do expect to learn as we go. And we expect to hear feedback from you that would improve these new features. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can email cja.infonethelp@illinois.gov and let us know your suggestions for how we might be able to improve this very new feature. Really, the whole point is just to give you another tool to track more meaningful change in the survivors you are serving and better measure their progress toward whatever individual goals they may have. I want to remind everybody that we are seeking volunteers to come up with a report that would be helpful containing these new data fields. So if you're interested, please reach out to that same email, or you could email me directly if you prefer. And then to view trainings on other InfoNet 3.0 updates at the time of this recording. There are not any posted, but we are really hoping to post these within the next few days, hopefully no more than a week. And you will see these. Here is the InfoNet website. It is infonet.icgaa.illinois.gov. And if I click here, resources, user information and resources, this is where you can find all kinds of InfoNet resources, including the manual. Here is the sexual assault materials, the InfoNet manual, definitions, and the trainings are going to be posted right here. There will also be an updated intake form reflecting this new section soon. It is not there at the time of this recording. I believe that is under review from my CASA right now, and as soon as that is ready, we will post that here under the data collection and entry forms. Okay, so thank you for watching this, everybody. We hope you find these new features helpful. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions, needs, or feedback. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.